Welcome to another episode of the Business is Blumin podcast. I have a very, very special guest with me today. He's an entrepreneur, he's a world traveler, a business owner. He is TJ Murphy. TJ, how you doing today?
Hey, Daniel, it's a pleasure to be here, man. Doing well and excited for the conversation.
Awesome. Sounds great. TJ's got a really great story to tell. Excited to get into it. But just to start off, TJ, so you grew up in Oregon. Would love to know about how'd you like growing up in Oregon and any fun stories you have from your childhood.
Yeah, let's see. This could go all over the place. So let's see where my brain takes us. But man, Oregon, I'm a little biased. I think this is the best part of the country by far. I mean, we've got all of the beauty, all of, nature's wonders, from amazing lakes and rivers, the redwoods down in Southern Oregon, beautiful coast. We've got Portland, which is an awesome city. And I live now here in Bend, which I consider to be like the adventure wonderland of the Pacific Northwest. So growing up, all of those things were just, part of my life. My parents were big outdoorsy folks. We didn't have a ton of money growing up for lavish, expensive trips or anything. So we did a lot of camping, which was awesome. I mean, I grew up camping all throughout the spring and summer and into fall with close friends of ours. Definitely just as a family exploring Pacific Northwest, Northern California, all through Oregon and Washington. And it really just planted a seed of adventure, which has become a big theme in my life. Definitely a core pillar of what I'm all about, from just what I enjoy and also what I've built a brand around. So my dad was a forestry guy. He made a career of wildland firefighting, working for the feds, and worked his way up from the lowest of positions all the way to the top. So summer times were always interesting. He was out fighting fire. When he was home, we'd have the fire radio on the center island in our kitchen going all the time, listening to all the different incidents going on around the state. So that was something that always excited me. I always admired my dad. I looked up to him. I looked up to the work that he did, and I kind of saw myself following in his footsteps and starting a career in forestry. So I went to high school in Ashland, spent all my years growing up down there in Southern Oregon. But when I turned 18, that's when you can start becoming a wildland firefighter. So I joined forces and got a job at the Oregon Department of Forestry, kind of, at a hand crew in the beginning, also worked my way up a little bit, worked on an engine, was an operator of an engine for my last couple years. And that's what paid my way through college. I went to the University of Oregon, go Ducks. But in the summers, I was back down in Southern Oregon, living with my folks, but mostly just out on fire, working long weeks, not uncommon to be putting in 60, 80 plus hour weeks, especially when we'd have big lightning storms rolling through the area and you're just chasing lightning for days on end, putting out fires before they get big. At least that's the goal. Sometimes they do get big. But even through all that, just going back to adventure, that kind of fueled this interest in the outdoors. I got to see some really remote parts of the Pacific Northwest and got to have some amazing experiences working closely with brothers and sisters out on the fire line. So let me know, where should we go from here? I can keep talking about Oregon, but it's a little teaser anyway.
I'll get it. Appreciate the background there. Just to illustrate a bit more, so is Oregon, for those that don't know exactly what Oregon looks like, is it more landscapey, more nature oriented, less of an urban vibe, would you say?
Yeah, so for those that aren't familiar with Oregon, we really only have one big city, and that's Portland. Which, if you're watching the news, depending on where you are in the country, does have a pretty bad rap right now. And, it is deserved in some cases. But Portland's an amazing city, amazing people. I love visiting Portland. But I grew up down in Southern Oregon. It's definitely very rural, a lot of smaller communities. And that kind of stretches all the way up until you get to Portland. You've just got some small to medium-sized cities, definitely a rural economy built on, agriculture primarily. Forestry was obviously a big industry here long ago, and that carries to today. And then Bend, where I'm at now, used to just kind of be a a little dot on the map in the center of the state, not really known for much. Again, a big logging town historically, but has blossomed and really grown tremendously over the last 20 years, primarily because, like I said earlier, it is adventure wonderland. It's nature's playground. We have, an amazing river that rolls right through downtown. We've got 30 minutes to world-class skiing and snowboarding on Mount Bachelor. We've got probably like 36 lakes within 45 minutes. So like anything that you're into, rock climbing, water sports, big like trail running scene, mountain biking trails, like endless mountain biking trails. That's my big passion right now. So anything that you're into, if it's outdoors related, you can find a lot of opportunity here in Bend, which is what's bringing a lot of people here, especially through COVID, the mass exodus from the Bay Area and other big cities around the country. People were at this point where they were able to work remotely. And so what do they want? They want a better lifestyle balance, and Bend and really anywhere in Oregon does lend that type of lifestyle. So I think that's why Bend's growing. We've got tremendous tourism, appeal, but also as a place to live, it's becoming a hub for people that are working remotely and also just starting businesses here. Some people came working corporate jobs, and now that they're here, they're looking for opportunities to, be innovative and create their own startups here.
Awesome. It's great to hear. You could be the spokesperson for the Bend Department of Vacation.
I try to be, although don't move here. It's getting a little crowded, but
always a balance. So quick follow-on from that, growing up in mostly rural area and now living in areas such as Bend, even though there's a plethora of activities to do there, do you think your life or kind of values would have been different had you grown up in a Bay Area or Miami or New York in a very urban populated area?
Yeah, I mean, we are certainly products of our environment. The people play a big part in that. And I did live in the Bay Area for a couple of years, so I can kind of speak to this. Nothing wrong with the Bay Area. I love the Bay. I love visiting big cities, but man, for me, growing up in a small town, having easy access to the outdoors and all the things that I described that I love to do, moving to the Bay, I quickly realized was just, it made me feel trapped. I felt like I was just locked into this concrete, fortress. And I met amazing people, but I didn't have that same connection. And honestly, I found it very hard to build community down there. Might have just been the, season I was in, but growing up in a small town where, you're walking down the street and you run into people, or even if you don't know them, everybody's just happy and says hi and, gives you the time of day. And it's just easy to connect with people. But when I was in the Bay, I found that to be the polar opposite. Everybody's in a hurry. Everybody's kind of keeping their head down, staying in their lane, trying to move from A to B. And so, yeah, I think, if I did grow up in a big city, regardless, Bay Area, New York City, anywhere, it's always going to be a little bit different. But I think I probably, would have slightly different values, and certainly my experiences would have been totally different. And I'm sure we wouldn't be here talking about adventure and nature and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, I thrive outside. I thrive in smaller communities where I can really, make an impact and see the product of the work I put in. So like I'm very involved with nonprofits here. I volunteer a lot of time, mostly like using the skills that I have in marketing and the digital world to help local organizations. And it's really cool to be able to know people. And, when people have a need, now that I've been here long enough, I get connected to a lot of amazing people doing amazing things. And I think that's harder to do when you're surrounded by hundreds of thousands, millions of people in the city. So
It's interesting to actually. It's a great because you would expect when there's a really densely populated area, great diversity of individuals, you'd almost think that within a stone's throw you'll have someone who's good at marketing or good at finance or good at whatever. But it's interesting when there's less people tend to be more friendly. So definitely an interesting observation there regarding growing up in somewhere rural as opposed to urban. But really great to hear about that experience. Another thing to get into your background. So, as I believe you mentioned earlier, you went to the University of Oregon. I'd love to know why you chose Oregon and a little bit about your time there.
This may not be that compelling of an answer. Honestly, I grew up loving the Oregon Ducks. My dad and I kind of bonded over Oregon football. We would go to games from the time I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So I grew up going to Eugene, checking out the University of Oregon. When you grow up in Oregon, obviously getting in-state tuition is a huge plus, and we've really only got two options for state schools: OSU and the Ducks. And for me, I looked at schools in California. I did go check out the Oregon State campus. I went to U of O and toured U of O, and for me, at that point in my life, just being around my close friends was super important to me. And just so happened that most of them were going to the University of Oregon. And so I think I probably would have landed there either way, but that's where my path took me, and no regrets. I had some amazing years in Eugene. Didn't have much of a direction coming out of high school in terms of what I wanted to do. So kind of just dove into classes at U of O, tried out different things, ended up landing in business, which is kind of where I thought I would be, but took a finance path for a little bit, ended up taking a lot of marketing courses, and marketing was where I had the most fun. It was more creative, it was more collaborative, but they actually had just launched a entrepreneurship track. So that's the path I ultimately went down, which gave you exposure to all the disciplines within business and was very rooted. Your capstone courses were mostly kind of doing like a design sprint, coming up with a business concept with a group, working through it in a 12-week, because we were on the quarter system, so like a 12-week class. You would meet with mentors in different industries. You would have a professor that was in that type of business or had experience and could help mentor and guide you along, and you would take a concept and bring it at least to full business plan, sometimes even like a full prototype of a software as a service, or if it was a physical product, try to like build that out. So it's very collaborative, like working in groups, being creative, learning how to pitch and present, all the skills that have really served me well in my career post college. So yeah, U of O gave me a lot of great experiences, got to keep friendships from when I was very young, and formed a lot of great new relationships along the way as well.
Awesome. Sounds like a great experience. You mentioned the entrepreneurship track, fortunate enough to take some marketing classes. And after college, I know you did some marketing work. So I'd love to know more specifically what you were up to after the University of Oregon and how you enjoyed that professional experience.
Yeah. So coming out of college, I was dating my high school sweetheart, now my wife, Allison. She graduated a little ahead of me, one term ahead of me. So she moved down to the Bay. That's where she got her first job out of college. And me, I got my degree. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do next. I thought I wanted to be a marketing consultant, working for a big consulting firm. And because Allie was down in the Bay, that's where I headed. And resume in hand, I hit the streets, and I tried to get a job at some of the bigger firms in San Francisco and throughout the Bay, and quickly realized that with a degree and no real experience as a marketing consultant, nothing really on my resume that was too outstanding. I partied a lot in college. I didn't do the things that you should do if you're listening to this, thinking about going to college. Internships, traveling abroad, those are all good things to do. But I I had a lot of fun. So yeah, quickly had to kind of pivot and look for something a little bit lower on the ladder to get my start in the corporate world. So I ended up getting a job as a marketing intern, and then became the marketing manager for a big property management company called Jamestown. They've got properties all over the world. I was the manager at a outdoor shopping center in Alameda, California, called Alameda South Shore Center. Had about 100 tenants there who were mostly small mom and pop businesses. And like most small business owners, they didn't have a clue how to do social media, digital advertising, SEO, all the things that are typically pretty overwhelming and not what a small business owner got into business to do in the first place. So they would come to me with all these questions about how to market themselves. And it really gave me a crash course because I had to learn all this stuff. I had some knowledge, but not a whole lot of skills or, experience doing the stuff. mostly theoretical from college. So got to learn really quickly about media buying, about social media, what works, what doesn't, how to brand yourself, how to really clarify your messaging so that you can connect with your ideal customers and SEO and all that fun stuff. And it was great. I learned a lot, but during that time, Allie and I were also kind of battling with the fact that we didn't love living in the big city. We were living in downtown Oakland, which was really cool. We were a couple blocks off of Lake Merritt, but for all the reasons I described earlier, just wasn't thriving. Wasn't really building community there, wasn't doing a whole lot outside of work. And, really we had always had this dream of going and traveling the world together. And that was something that had always been on our minds. And so with where we were at, knowing we wanted to move, not feeling very fulfilled in our corporate trajectory that we were on, we decided, and we we did a vision board one weekend. We put it up on the wall and said, all right, a year from now, we're going to be traveling the world. And we set that into motion. We continued to work those jobs. We cut a lot of costs. We stopped eating out as much, and we saved up. And we ultimately saved up enough to put in our 2 weeks notice. We bought one-way tickets to Indonesia and sold off a bunch of our stuff, put the rest in storage at my folks' house, and embarked on what ultimately became a 14-month adventure traveling through mostly Asia.
It's incredible. Did you follow into that? Did you have more personal any resistance to that, or any self doubts before telling yourself, "We're going to drop everything and just try"?
Oh yeah, that's a great question, Dan. For sure. I mean, I was just starting my career. I thought, okay, like I've only been working for like a year and a half, 2 years out of college. Like, how's this going to look? Like, when I come back, what am I going to do? I'm going to have this huge gap in my resume. It's not going to look good. And, my parents were supportive. They were also terrified. They didn't, travel much outside the US. So the idea of going to some of these countries that they had no clue of was scary, but they were supportive. But other people weren't. Other people said, you really should like work and like build your career, and like you're just going to go travel and have fun for a year and a half. Like, good luck. And I was like, if not now, then when? Like, so many people sacrifice all of their best years for the payoff of getting to do that kind of stuff when you're old and less, mobile and able-bodied. And I'm like, I want to go have adventures right now while I'm 23 years old. I'm in my best years. We're going to go have amazing experiences, which will help me figure out what the heck I want to do with my life. Because at that point, I still had no idea. I thought starting a business was in my future, but didn't really have a clue what that was going to be, or any skills or mentors to help me in that pursuit. And when we started traveling, I quickly realized, okay, there's a lot of people here that are clearly running businesses, working from their computers, living in beautiful remote places, chilling, working on the beach sometimes if they want to. So I just started taking these people out for a beer or coffee and like picking their brains, just saying, so like, I see you're doing something. What can you just show me? Like, what are you doing? How are you making money? And some of them were just remote, working for companies in the US or elsewhere. Of course, we met people from all over the world, but others were starting and scaling businesses, digital businesses, or investing in crypto. That's when crypto was still low, and really I was meeting people that were making just insane amounts of money, and I wish I'd listened to them, but I didn't. So, but I learned a lot just taking people out and talking to them and asking questions to understand what they were doing and how they did it. And that sparked this idea. I was like, okay, I have skills in marketing. I have this background in helping small businesses, and I had a lot of success doing that. And so I said, all right, a marketing agency it is. Let's start this thing. And I was fortunate because my employer in the Bay actually wanted me to continue doing some of their digital advertising, media buying, social media. So I actually took them up on that and was like, yeah, I'm going to start this business, and, you guys can be a client of mine, and, I'll just be an independent contractor working for you until you can find someone else to fill that role. And so that was my first client, and picked up a few more through Alameda South Shore Center. Some of our tenants also wanted to continue working with me, and so hired us while we were traveling. And that was awesome. Gave me a taste of what was possible. Showed me that this can be done. And it also helped us to travel longer because we were actually making some money while we were spending it on all the awesome adventures we were having. So built that thing for the 14 months while we were overseas, and decided when I got home, I was going to give myself 6 months to really make it work. Like, I'm going to go all in on this and give it my all for 6 months. And if at that point, like, I haven't gotten to a point where I can feed myself and pay the bills, then yeah, I'm going to have to go find a job, and maybe I'll keep doing this on the side, but that's what it's going to have to be. And I was very fortunate. I had some great connections. When we came home, we went back to Ashland, lived with my parents for 6 months to, help save some more money and keep us afloat while we didn't have stable income coming in. And I had some great connections in Ashland and some mentors that helped me along, and, helped make some connections that turned into business and clients. And we've just been rocking and rolling ever since. That was back in 2017. And yeah, now we've been growing for almost 7 years. We have clients all over the country, and that 6 month window paid off because I did not have to ever pull out my resume again and go hit the streets looking for a job.
Who knows? I think it was different. You end up getting stuck in whatever country you're in at the time. Maybe you'd have had to get a job in that country, and your life would have taken not a better or worse path, but a different path. So
just a different path. Yeah. Every moment can take you down a slightly different path, but
sure, definitely. So really appreciate you walking me through that travel story. Just another quick follow-up regarding the travel. Are there any cooler stories that stand out from your time traveling that you think people should know about? Probably a lot, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of stories. I mean, I think the biggest thing for anybody that is thinking about traveling and hasn't had that experience outside of the US, there's no time like the present. Even if you can get out for a couple weeks on your 2 week vacation or whatever you have, if you've been thinking about traveling abroad, go do it, because you don't know what experiences you're going to run into. Like for us, every country, we never had a plan. That was kind of intentional. It's like the more you plan, the less you do. I've found, like, it's the spontaneous adventure that comes out of just showing up somewhere, going and booking a night at a hostel. You meet a group of people, which, here's a story. We were in the Philippines for a month, and I think the very first place we went, blanking on the name of the town, but beautiful little beach town. We stayed at this awesome hostel. It was like all open air. We slept in hammocks, like in the upper story. Everybody's kind of in the same room together. And we met this group of people from around the world. A couple people from France, Italy, us from the US, a couple Belgians, and we all hit it off. I think we went out to the one bar in the town that night and stayed up till dawn drinking local rum and like singing karaoke and playing pool and having all these awesome times together. And then we were like, let's keep this going. We're all here for the next couple of weeks. Let's just travel together. So we hopped on a bus, went to the next place, rented motorbikes, went off to the next place together, seeing waterfalls, going snorkeling in the ocean during the sardine run, where there's literally tens of millions of little fish all swimming around you. Just like once in a lifetime experiences that we never would have had if we had planned out an itinerary and like had a schedule to follow. Because when you have a schedule to follow, when you meet people and they're going somewhere and you're going somewhere else, well, that's goodbye. But when you keep things flexible like we did, it didn't matter. If we met cool people we decided we wanted to continue traveling with, we'd do that. And if we wanted to break off at any point, we could still do that too. So, it's not as much of a story as just a lesson I've learned from traveling a lot, is plan less, experience more, and just be open to what the day throws at you. And especially when you meet people that you connect with, lean into that and try to continue building that relationship and follow them or have them follow you. And amazing things can happen, and they can turn into lifelong friendships. We've definitely had that. And a lot of those people in that group in the Philippines, we still keep in touch with today.
Maybe travel advice, but also life advice as well. Less experience, more so.
Yeah.
Insightful stuff there. Quick other question about your traveling. Maybe you mentioned a lesson, but are there any other takeaways that you have during your time traveling that you think you wouldn't have known, or kind of you wouldn't have been as fond of had you not had that travel experience?
Let's see. Takeaways. Yeah, I mean the planning is a big one. I think, when you have things that you have always wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest regret, and not that I won't do it at some point, but like I really wanted to get my scuba certification. And when you're in Southeast Asia, it's like really affordable to do that. But at that time, I was telling myself, well, even though it's affordable, like that's like a month or more worth of travel. And like, I want to travel more. But also, I didn't get that scuba cert and I didn't get to go on awesome dives with a lot of the people we were meeting along the way that had amazing experiences. So if there's something that you really want to do, even if you have a good excuse for not doing it, just do it. If it's important to you, make that a priority, especially if it's a cool experience like diving. And yeah, I would say that was my one regret and lesson learned.
So to anyone out there scared of doing anything, whether it's internally or some outside resistance, just to do it and kind of live with the result. And it sounds like that should lead to a happier outcome.
Yeah. Listen to Nike. Just do it.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, they're a $1 zillion company, $1 billion company. Also started in, I believe, Beaverton, Oregon. Sorry if I'm getting that city wrong. I'm
Yep.
sure some
Yep.
but
No, that's it.
yeah, rightful advice from an Oregonian. If I said that correctly. From
Oregonian. Yeah.
Oregonian. Awesome.
It's okay. Oregon, or no, we say Oregon in Oregon. Everyone else says Oregon. So not wrong, but
someone who's native to Oregon, from somebody the CEO of a big company is founded in Oregon. So it sounds like the Oregon natives know what's going on, to say the least. But incredible to hear about your travel. I know something else that you did before kind of getting into your marketing business back home, or kind of during it, was you started another podcast. You have a podcast called Adventurous Entrepreneurs. Can you talk about a little bit about what that is and where you see that project going?
Yeah. So another thing I never thought I would do, starting a podcast, but going back to mentorship, for me early on in my business career, starting my first marketing agency, I went alone for the longest time. I let my ego really get in the way of my ability to grow and thrive. I had clients, I was making good money, but I was doing everything myself. And it wasn't until I learned to let my ego go, realize I can grow and thrive, and both personally and professionally, a lot faster if I lean in to the help of others. And for me, it was coaches, direct one-to-one mentorship, but also podcasts and just like learning through the endless amount of value and information that's out there online from people that were doing exactly what I wanted to do or had done it, were 10 steps, 100 steps, 1,000 steps ahead of me. And I didn't grow up, like podcasts weren't as big of a thing growing up, but once I got into business, I learned that there were some amazing ones out there that I started listening to. And some of my mentors were starting their own podcasts. So I was following them and kind of seeing how they were doing things, and had one of my mentors say, hey, like you should do this. Here's why. And it wasn't for me, my reasoning wasn't to grow a podcast that was going to be super successful. It was to improve the skills that are just foundational to everything that I need to do in order to succeed. Being a great communicator, interviewing people, that lends well to negotiation and just being persuasive and having good, meaningful, impactful conversations with people that you want to do business with, or you're helping out, or whatever the case may be. So I told myself, like, if I'm starting a podcast, I'm doing it for my own personal development, to level up my skills first and foremost. Second, to be able to learn from people. Like, I'm going to interview people that I want to talk to, that have knowledge that I want to learn, but also that I can share to my community, and to grow a community that will take a lot of value from these conversations and the lessons learned. And really the theme of this podcast is looking at entrepreneurship for what it is. It's an adventure. And in every adventure, there's lessons learned, there's wrong turns where you get lost along the way. Maybe somebody comes in and lends a hand and helps you out and puts you back on the right path. And so taking it through that lens, for me, has helped tremendously in just working through my own obstacles in business, But the goal is that, hey, if somebody's thinking about starting a business, or they're early on in their entrepreneurial journey, or maybe they're, seasoned entrepreneurs, but are just always eager and looking to learn, this podcast can give them opportunities to learn from people that are doing amazing things in the world. And so with those three things in mind, as long as I'm having fun doing it, I'm winning. It doesn't matter if I'm getting one download or a million downloads. Like, I don't even pay attention to that stuff, because I'm getting value and I know other people are getting value from it as well.
Stuff and take stuff as well. Definitely, I'll include a link to your YouTube channel and your podcast in the description.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I've been able to take a look at a few episodes. Really, really, really interesting stuff. Some great things, some valuable lessons there. So definitely something to take away for everyone. But I appreciate you discussing that as well. Another thing to get into. So I believe you mentioned a little bit earlier, but kind of starting your own marketing agency afterward, after the travel, staying at home for a bit, now doing your own thing. Right now, I know you're the owner of a Hite Digital franchise. Can you speak a little bit to your role there, and kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis and the kind of services you provide to clients?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Going back to before, where my ego was getting in the way. So I started my first marketing agency. It was called eThrive Marketing, which was basically me just glorified freelancing for let's see, a little over 2 years. Like I said, I had a lot of clients. Like, I was making good money, but I was working 60, 80-hour weeks. Didn't have anything in the form of processes or systems or really anything. It was all up here, and I was doing all the work, and I was quickly heading down a path of burnout. Like, I dreaded waking up every day, because I knew there was going to be a million emails and a million things on my to-do list that I did not want to do. And because I was so young in my entrepreneurial journey, hadn't tapped into resources, wasn't comfortable asking for help, it was hard. I thought I was going to throw the towel in, but I started investing in coaching. I got in a couple coaching programs, which quickly helped me like just remove some of the obstacles. I created some fulfillment systems. I started handing off work that I was just terrified to do, because I thought nobody could do it as good as I can, and nobody can take care of my clients as good as I can. And that was important to me. But really, that was what was preventing me from really being able to serve at the highest level, and have the impact that I wanted to have on the level that I wanted to have it. So through those coaching programs, I got connected with a mentor who was also one of the original Hite Digital franchisees. So he, like me, had an agency before, merged in with Hite. So I had followed his journey for a few months while we were coaching together. He was coaching me, rather. And, one day as we were having a coaching session, I was kind of talking about some of the problems I was having. He was like, man, you're at this point now where I think this makes a lot of sense. Like, you should come meet JC. You should talk to the team. Like, you need to do your due diligence. It's a big commitment, but I think this is going to solve a lot of the problems that you're having, and free up your time to be able to really serve your clients, focus on sales and marketing and growth, and have that freedom that you really set out to have in the first place in starting this business, while surrounding yourself by amazing people that all share common values, that want to serve on the highest level, that are built on family and faith. And so that's what I did. I started meeting with JC. I met with a lot of the franchisees, and I just quickly realized this is my tribe. Like, these are the people that I want to be aligned with. These are people that I can grow alongside, people that can help mentor me and coach me, but also people that are just getting started that I can lend a hand down and help grow as well. And so joined forces with Hite, really fundamentally didn't change my business at all. All my clients came with me. I rebranded, merged with Hite. Now I'm the Hite Digital Bend owner. So from an operations standpoint, like, my main focus is sales and marketing, growing the business, making sure that our team has the resources and support they need to provide the best services possible to our clients, and also making sure, at the high level, that our clients are well taken care of, that we understand where they're at, where they want to go. That way we can give them the best guidance and build the bridge between those two. So I still am very involved in strategy, and outside of the actual like pushing buttons and fulfillment, and that I have an amazing team that are way better at it than I am, that do that day in and day out. So that's taken care of, which frees me up to just really focus on designing the business that I want to have, that'll give me and my team and our clients the freedom that we ultimately all sought out to start a business for in the first place.
Especially I think the big lesson that business owners, executives, or entrepreneurs, at least the successful ones, seem to in one way or another to trust people to know that, even though if you're there may be people that can do certain things better than you, and once you kind of learn to trust things, hopefully fall into place. So remarkable to learn about that.
Yeah, and it's true for most people. Like in the beginning, you need to learn, like you need to do all the things to be good and understand how to hire the right people and find the right systems and processes. But I think it's a common thread for a lot of people is that you become your bottleneck. Like
Yep.
the quicker you can get out of the day-to-day stuff and delegate and empower people with what they love to do so that you can focus on what you love to do and need to do, the faster you're going to grow and have that impact that you're looking to have.
Yeah, awesome. Hopefully, one day I'll get my podcast to that level. Still in the beginning stages now, but it's always great to hear
Me
from
too, man. Me
people.
too.
So just a few other things to get into, a little more specific regarding your work at Hite. From your perspective, know that you have a ton of marketing experience at this point. What have you seen are some common struggles that small or medium-sized businesses may face regarding their marketing efforts?
Yeah, the fact that either they don't really have it in the first place or they're trying to do it all themselves, and that's not their skill set. That's not why they started their business, to be a marketing expert and know how to market their plumbing company or their HVAC company or their remodeling company. These are businesses we serve very commonly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often the most overwhelming thing is marketing, because they don't have those team members internally that are able to do what needs to be done. They don't know what's working here and now. A lot of times successful businesses that have been around for a while got that way because they were the only game in town for a while, or one of a few, and they built up a reputation based on the amazing service that they provided for their community, which can only get you so far as more and more competitors come onto the scene, and the whole landscape of how we communicate now through digital and social media and needing to be number one on Google and all these things become a necessity. Like you need to be present, you need to be actively investing in these areas of your business. And so not having those systems, honestly, a lot of times just getting burned by other marketing agencies or marketing partners that they've used in the past that said they were going to do all this stuff and didn't, or just weren't the right fit. There are lots of different reasonings there, but that can make people very jaded and untrustworthy about marketing as a whole and what works and what doesn't. And so with all those different factors, I mean, the biggest thing that we find is that business owners are overwhelmed. They don't have clear data. They don't have any idea what each area of marketing, whether it's social media, email, Google advertising, Facebook ads, they don't know what's working because they don't have the systems on the back end, the analytics tools to be able to track and show them, hey, that customer came from this Google ad. They also interacted with you here, here, and here before they closed. And that was worth this much money. So with that information, we can say, here's your ROI from all of these different channels. And then holistically at the end of the year, when we're working with a company, we want to be able to say, all right, Mr. Johnson, here's the plan that we had coming into the year. Here's everything that we did. And here are the numbers. SEO got you this much ROI. Your Google ad campaigns got you this much ROI. Facebook ads didn't actually work out. So here's what we're going to recommend in the months ahead. We want to pivot away from this and put those resources here, or, whatever the case may be. When you have the data to be able to make an informed decision and you're not just throwing paint up on the wall and not even knowing what sticks because you have no way to track it, it can be really hard. And it's no surprise that so many business owners are overwhelmed because these systems need to be built and implemented. And unless you have that expertise, you've done it before, like you don't know where to go. You need someone to guide you. So that's where we come in and just try to create freedom and take that burden, take that hat off of their shoulders and give them a clear plan of action with an amazing team of people to do that work for them so that they can focus on providing an amazing experience for their customers and for their team.
Make sure you're going with someone who has your best interest at heart. actually the case. That's not accurate.
Yeah, you got to do your due diligence, just like you would hire an employee when you're looking to hire a marketing agency. You should really run them through the ringer, ask the right questions, ask for case studies, take an in-depth approach. We're going to do the same. Like, we don't want to work with just everybody. You've got to be invested in your marketing. Like, if you just want to set it and forget it, yeah, the team's going to take care of everything. But unless you're communicating what's going on in your business, you're having regular conversations, you're actually reading the reports and talking through strategy with your marketing partner, how can you expect it to work? Like, it's a two-way street. So, like, those are things that we're looking for. And we're always asking questions to really gauge, like, is this person going to be a good partner? And if they are a good partner, then it's exponentially easier for us to help them because we know they're going to be invested in the long game. If we have a bad month, they're not just going to say, hey, that didn't work, I'm pulling the plug on it. It's like, no, just like everything, marketing is taking what you know to be true, but then creating a hypothesis, testing it, and pivoting when you need to. Doesn't always work out. And when it doesn't, that's okay. That just means we have more information and a better path forward because we have knowledge about what's working and what isn't.
But it's not a one-way street. It's almost, it's got to be a happy marriage.
That's a good way to put it.
Sounds like a successful marketing and business relationship. But appreciate the insight around that. Just a few other questions here to wrap up. So probably the most loaded, but the shortest question I'll ask: how do you in your life find happiness?
Oh man, yeah. For me, I don't like the word or the term work-life balance because it can never be in balance. But blending the two for me, like family and friendships are the number one thing for me. That's what fills me up. So even if I'm having a super busy day, I've put rules and systems in place where 5 o'clock rolls around, work's done. If I had to come back later or whatever it is, so be it. But I'm going to go and have some time with my wife, go on a date, have dinner together, just decompress from the day, talk about what's going on, go on a nice walk. Like, that's joy for me, being able to spend intentional time with the people that I care about most. And even better if we're doing it outdoors, mountain biking, skiing, rock climbing, paddleboarding, doing all the things that I personally love from a hobby perspective. So it's all about designing your life and your work or your business to be able to allow you to do the things that you care about most. And yeah, for me, that's what that looks like.
Also, it's great to hear. I think ultimately that's what everyone's chasing, and always great to hear different people's interpretations or definitions of that. So, really appreciate you sharing that. And last question, I wanted to get into really quickly. Is there anything else that you want to share that you think people should know out there?
Yeah, the one thing I would say and this is just top of mind because I did another podcast on it recently, but if you're in a relationship, whether that's a marriage or with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your significant other, it's so important to know that it's not a 50-50 split. And that could also go for a business partner. It's not always going to be a 50-50 split. Life happens, things will go wrong, people will pass away, health issues will pop up, stress will creep up, whatever the case may be. If you're in a partnership with someone, it's important to realize that and to know how to communicate, to understand where you need to pick up some slack. And, maybe sometimes you're doing 80% and they're only doing 20 because they're having a real hard time. But when you're in a partnership and you understand that, then when you're having a rough time, they're going to pick up that slack for you. And I think that is one of the most foundational things that I look at in my marriage and in any relationship that I have is like, where is that give and take? And if I see somebody that's having a tough time, whether that's on my team or a friendship, whatever it may be, looking for ways where I can help lift them up or find the help that they need in that moment of hardship. Because I know if I can do that, then when I'm struggling, that's going to come back and help me through that hard time as well.
Awesome. So some good comment. Would you say the best way to summarize, the best way to, I guess, look at that is just accept the fact that life happens and you just got to accept that really it's being comfortable, being able to constantly figure things out and just go with the flow and, not keep score as maybe a lot of folks in
Yeah, not keep score. I think that's a big one too. learn to forgive quickly, try not to keep score, and life happens. I'm an optimist. I'm a pretty positive guy. I think that can be detrimental in some cases, but overwhelmingly it does help in a lot of areas of life. So
be committed to figuring things out, and hopefully have a happy, long, and healthy relationship, whether with your significant other, friends, or colleagues. But overall, TJ, you have a really incredible and great story from growing up in Oregon, from the time you spent traveling, from your work in marketing, I think, and some relationship advice at the end for everyone, which I think we all appreciate. But overall, I want to thank you so much for your time, for appearing on the show today.
Hey man, I appreciate it. This was super fun, and I'm excited to follow your journey with this podcast. You're doing amazing things, so keep it up, bro. This is great.